Let's get started. We don't got all day. We're doing the timing chain and we're doing it inside the car. The main chain and the balance shaft. So let's see what I can show you here. First off, we take the belly pan, the splash pan, whatever you want to call it. And then we take the oil out, drain the oil. Then we have the transmission lines right here. I noticed that typically if you just follow them over here and move those lines, if that 10 millimeter is missing, chances are this thing's had pistons. That's a pretty good indicator. Most people are too lazy to put that bolt back in, and most of the time there's no other reason to take that out unless maybe it's had an oil pan seal or something like that. But it has definitely had an oil pan seal, and then it's definitely had an upper oil pan seal because that's sloppy sealant. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying bad things about it necessarily, except it is leaking. We've got some more than average actual drips, and now I'm starting to wish I would have bought that $25 box of gloves last time I saw them in the store. But we gotta just get started here. The first step is to take the belt off now that we got that far. So we've got an automatic belt tensioner all the way up here, but we're gonna do everything from the bottom. And that is a 16 millimeter. And the tensioner pulley is this one right here. So I like to get as far over as I can so I can pull it this way, right? And then you just flop it off one of the pulleys. See how it has so much slack on that crank pulley? You can pull it off any one of those pulleys. So now that I got that belt off, we have this idler pulley, that smooth pulley, right? It's got to come off, and us old timers, we used to use ratchets for everything, and this is a specialty ratchet. It's also got a specialty stubby VIM socket on it, and that's a T40 up on that smooth pulley there. And you see there's limited clearance, but if you move it around just right, see, you could really get ultimate control and break it loose. But also, these young whippersnappers nowadays, they have all these fancy power tools like this long neck ratchet, and even this thing fits all the way up in here, and probably I could even just pull the trigger and it would do the whole trick. But pretty amazing. But the old timer's way still works. Just takes a few seconds longer. I mean, come on. We have this crank pulley. It's got a special tool to take it off. I bought one of those tools, and it's got a 24 millimeter. You don't have to necessarily use this setup. You can pop that cover off and jam a pry bar in the flywheel, but I mean, I got the proper tool, so I've never really had to mess around with stuff like that on this engine. See how there's not much room there? What you can do is get this fancy ratchet back out. We're gonna pop our 10 millimeter on it. And in this case, you can just take this and you can put both of these tabs behind this bolt. And actually, to help you, to give you just a little bit more, what am I going to use here? You need to remember to put this back in, but you can pull that bolt out just a little bit and then push it behind it, and then it's a keeper. Now that I got it there, I'm not trying to, here's what you're doing. You're taking this tool with those studs in there and you're trying to find those 4 pegs and line them up. So what I do typically like to do is now, you see how tight of a fit that is? What we gotta do is we gotta take that 7 millimeter out and pop that thing to the side. So we take our fancy ratchet again. Now we're able to put our special tools in here. It's in the way for you to see, but there's a lot more room over here to work with the ratchet, you see? Falls back into where that module was sitting. So you simply just find your studs and break this loose. I lined up my studs with the tool, and then I got my breaker bar in the middle, and then I like to get them a little bit apart. So you just break them loose. You don't need a 24 millimeter triple square, just a 24 millimeter. Once you got it all the way loose, you can usually just screw it out by hand, and we're done here. But here's the thing. You're starting to see how grungy that is? I can't even see the head of that bolt. It's ridiculous. I'm just screwing this bolt out. I've never really seen the need to replace this. See how easy it is? That's why you really have to remember to put the screw in. It's easy to pop that out. And then this is all coming apart, but they do have a little spacer for this. I've seen to where if you're super careful with it and not an idiot, you can just screw it all the way back in the way it is. The difficult part here is how dirty this is. And now all these bolts have to come out with all that grunge everywhere. It's all the way in, and then now we can go ahead and get this oil pressure sensor wire out. Pull it out of the way. And then, you know, I guess I could just start going after it. But with the dirty bolts like that, I'm trying to stall because I'm trying to find this, my right angle pick. These bolts have to be cleaned out with at very least a right angle pick because they have so much crud in them. I mean, just ridiculous amount of crud. They get better up top, but these ones right here are probably horrible. So you just try to get the pick inside the T30 part and clean it out. Now, there's one more thing I like to do before I go too much farther is I like to clean some of this excess crud off, because if you don't get the majority of this crud off, then it can work its way back in the engine. So I had used a couple cans of brake clean or whatnot. I'll try this. I got some sea foam in here. I'll start letting this soak. And then I'll hit it with maybe a brush and then brake cleaner. Brushing it and soaking it should have helped a lot, and should have helped me get most of this off by the time I spray it. Now we have to hit it with air. Now we have to get up in there. Although still dirty up here deeper in the middle of the case, it's by far no more longer a hazard to take apart for crud to possibly dump into the engine. And now I can get to the bolts much better. No more crud laying on top of this upper oil pan. Time to take the thing apart, you feel me? Now you see how easy it is to strip out your bolts when using power tools carelessly like that, especially when you have an extension on it. So I do always suggest breaking everything loose by hand, especially with being very close to it. That way you don't get that possibility of just sloppiness, because you're just choked right up on it. So if you just go around all of these and break them loose, you see how fast this is going? I'm already right here. That one had some crud in it, but I broke it loose. These up in here are just a little bit tricky because they're kind of blind. You can't see them, and you just kind of have to feel for them, and they also might have crud in them. And these are being particularly difficult. There we go. It was just that's a both hands job. I have to hold the and that sharp plastic right here, it'll get you. See that fresh white skin? Yeah, it took like a nice little chunk out of me. It'll start bleeding soon, but I'm gonna rip that flap of skin off, I suppose. But here's the problem. When someone's already in there, like they have been here, this was probably an early piston job before they were doing chains, or the customer that had this vehicle did not buy the chain because they were upselling them. They weren't just giving them away free at the time. You have to wait till it breaks. It's a long story. See, told you it would start coming out. The problem is someone zips these things in with an impact and gets them super tight, and then now they strip out super easy because they're over torqued. So try not to be that guy for the next guy. So we got this bolt, this bolt, this bolt, and then there's 4 of them across the top right there. So before I attempt that one, I'm going to take a right angle pick and get the crud out of it. Let's see if this big one works. While I'm here, and those look cleaner up top there. Now let's see if this bulky boy will go up in here. Now the problem is I need to make sure that it's straight, because it's not. All right, that's not going to be able to happen the way I want it to. Much better. Ouch. And now I'm in trouble again. Here you see that the screwdriver's in there, and I'm just tapping it with my rubber mallet here. You see how it just separates it like that? And then you can give it a little one of those, and then also you can come up here and give it one of those. And then typically you could just pull it back like this. Now you're gonna wanna pay attention on how I put it in. It looked pretty squirrely coming out, huh? All right, here's the deal. We got new guides and new chain on the main timing chain, and this is still a new chain for the balance shaft chain. It's still the original design though, but it's made by Beck & Arnley. And I did not replace the balance guides. There's all this stuff's supposed to be lifetime anyway, and really everything could have been fine, but the updated parts were this long guide on the side right here, and the very top one, built a little bit different. The crazy part right here is just doing it with the front end still intact without being in service position. Is it really worth it? Probably not. A clean new case. The front seal is greased, and I'm gonna hold it as such. And install it. This light's in my way. there it is. And now I just simply run it in.